PokeRAMBLE podcast.
On this week's episode of the PokeRAMBLE podcast, we'll be attempting to DLSee the future, breaking down the new trailer for the Pokemon Expansion Pass, discussing every new feature from Avery to Zapdos, and much, much more. So, welcome to the PokeRAMBLE podcast. I'm your host, Kumail, and I'm joined as ever by the Battle Frontier Brain himself, Amit. How goes it, my friend?
Great, episode 2. Here we are.
Can you believe it? I can't.
I'm excited. It's good. We said we do it weekly, and here we are. We've even got people in the chat today.
Oh, really?
So yeah, shout out to Billy. Thank you for joining us live.
Is that Billy the dog?
Soup_Billy.
Oh, hi, Billy.
So thank you for joining us. It's great to be recording the podcast with an audience for a change, which is something new for us.
And I guess before we talk all this Pokemon stuff, I'm just wondering how you are in general, really.
Yeah, great. I actually got a kitten this week, so I'm in the throes of learning how a kitten behaves. Hey, Ambelina in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Erica.
So I'm in the throes of enjoying a kitten, which is a new thing for me. I've never had a pet before.
What type is it?
It really is. I mean, it's a fire type. I've decided.
Okay.
It's a ragdoll kitten. So lots of fun, lots of playfulness, but very, very cuddly, which has been a real treat.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm doing quite well myself. I've got my Mewtwo mug in front of me with a nice cup of tea. The Pokemon anime is back today, so I'm just waiting for the new episode to drop with subs, and I'll be watching that tonight. And I guess the really exciting thing for me is we finally figured out the Spotify situation. And although iTunes are refusing to put us up because of the Podcastform thing, we'll get that sorted out. But it's nice to be up there finally. You know, another medium to listen on. Really.
Yeah, so now that we're live on Twitch every Sunday, 6:30 Central, 7:30 British Summer Time.
Mm-hmm.
Nice that we've got some people with us. I can just see the alt fan piece joined us as well. Thank you for joining us live. It's great to have a live audience when we record these things, and hopefully you guys will get a chance to ask questions and stuff if you want to hear us talk about things. And then, as well as Twitch, live on a Sunday evening, Spotify and YouTube for those of you who can't catch it live. So we did have actually a surprising number of people follow us on Spotify. So thank you to all of those people. We will try and make sure that we keep these weekly. It's exciting for us. So
where are we on the Spotify rankings? You had looked, didn't you?
I counted when you search Pokemon podcast. I counted the number of podcasts you have to go down to find us.
Oh, okay.
After the first episode, we were 64th.
Yeah.
Hopefully, with a bit of time, we'll climb up the rankings again.
And I guess probably we should get into things then. Last week we sort of tangentially discussed that would we see a trailer for the Pokemon DLC, considering that it's coming out this month, and lo and behold, this month we did. So let us start with our first section. So this is our main feature for this week, and it's the Pokemon Expansion Pass news. We had a trailer last week, which showcased both the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. And I guess what really happens in the trailer, we don't really need to go in depth in the actual trailer itself, but we see landscapes of the Isle of Armor, interactions with new characters while we're studying in the Isle of Armor in the dojo. We see us fighting with Kubfu in a pagoda, which I don't know whether or not it's going to decide which evolution you get, because there's 2 different pagodas shown. But yeah, we see those. We see the Isle of Tundra. We see more landscapes, returning Pokemon. We see the Temple of the Regis, and the Gigantamax starters. So those are the things we're kind of shown in the trailer. We'll break down the trailer with the most important parts, I guess. But I just wanted to hear your sort of tangential thoughts on the trailer itself to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was exciting because I wasn't expecting to have a trailer that was teasing more of the content so close to launch. And I'm sure we'll talk about the actual launch date in a moment, but really nice that it's so soon. 10 days from today.
What is the release date? It's the 17th, isn't it?
17th of June, yeah. 17th of June, global release. So really exciting that it's so soon. I'm glad and really pleased that it wasn't pushed back because of the virus. So credit to the team for getting their remote working in order so that they were able to kind of keep progressing on the game in time.
Actually,
fantastic. I can't wait for it.
if anything, we have to give them a bit of praise because I think when they first revealed it, they were sort of shooting for the end of June. So the fact we're actually getting it in the middle of June is actually quite great news. Not so much because Last of Us 2 comes out, but we'll forget about that. But yeah, no.
I mean it's always good. Yeah. It's always good when there's new content. I'm always excited. And the trailer, do you know what? It was a nice little teaser. I'm glad that they didn't reveal anything too much. And I think it was nice. There wasn't a big fanfare. There wasn't a big intro. It was just, we're sending something out at this time. And I think everyone was just scrabbling around Twitter, YouTube, trying to figure out where it was. And then I think you pointed me to the Japanese Pokemon Company's Twitter account.
Yeah.
And there was the trailer. So I watched it actually on that site first. And then I saw they did release it in, I suppose, an English version. There was no voiceover during the video, but just the text and things were in English. So I then watched it again with that. But you know, it's exciting, and there's lots of little teasers, lots of things that I really enjoyed looking at. So well, let's get into it. Really, that's kind of where I want to go.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly as well, I completely agree. Where I thought the trailer was perfect, just because it was more of a teaser. Showing you what you've got to look forward to, rather than holding your hand saying, "Oh, this is what you're going to do here. This is what you're going to do." They don't explain much, so they leave it up to your imagination. And I guess we've got a lot of surprise waiting for us when we go into the game ourselves. But I guess when we're talking about surprises, I think the first thing I wanted to really point out is that we see Galarian Slowbro, and whilst we're going to talk about Slowbro in depth later on in this video, we see it in the context of both Avery and Clara, who are going to be the two people training with us on the Isle of Armor. We see them chucking Pokeballs, but only one of them's using Galarian Slowbro. Now, I just wanted to know, do you think Clara is going to have a Galarian Slowbro as well, or is it just Avery who's going to have it as his partner Pokemon?
Yeah, so it was interesting because we found out that Galarian Slowbro was a dual poison psychic type, and with Avery being teased as the psychic type trainer, Clara being the poison type trainer, it almost feels like Galarian Slowbro must be both of their Pokemon. It fits so nicely. The other possibility is obviously that it could be Slowking, and we haven't heard about Galarian Slowking. We did see a very small teaser in one of the earlier trailers for the DLC of Galarian Slowking, where his face was all blurred out. So possibly, if it's also a poison type, it would be a perfect match for Clara. Otherwise, I'm guessing that they both have Galarian Slowbro. And it was strange that we only see Galarian Slowbro standing behind Avery, but I think the way the trailer's done, it almost seemed to imply that they were both throwing the ball at the same time, and the outcome was Galarian Slowbro. So my assumption going into it is that they both are using Galarian Slowbro.
It could be a fake out for me, in the sense of neither of them could have Galarian Slowbro as their main partner Pokemon. Maybe Avery actually has a different partner Pokemon, and they just showed off Slowbro for the sake of this trailer, I guess. So it could be a fake out. Very much a possibility, like you said, that Clara does have a Galarian Slowbro as well. But I'm really holding hope into the fact that she's got a Galarian Dustox or something. I mean, her fashion sense, not to have a Galarian Dustox, just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I'm hoping too much, but yeah, maybe not. I don't know, but I'm hoping it's something different than the Galarian Slowbro. The Slowking I thought was actually going to be left with the Crown Tundra DLC, but it would make sense that we get a Slowking at the same time. But I'm hoping it's not.
Yeah, it would be odd. It would be odd to have a way for Slowpoke to evolve in one way but not the other. Yeah, and actually that was the other really interesting thing about this teaser, actually, that I should have covered at the start. Is it covered both DLCs, which I wasn't expecting. I thought it was just going to be about the Isle of Armor, but nice to get some stuff on the Crown Tundra as well. And actually, I think some of the bits that I was most excited about is for the Crown Tundra, because I'm starting to piece together little bits about the Isle of Armor, but actually so much is unknown about the Crown Tundra.
Oh yeah.
And certainly from a Pokemon perspective, it's certainly a legendary Pokemon perspective, that certainly feels like where most of it is being housed in the Crown Tundra. So it'll be exciting to see what we get in the Isle of Armor in terms of legendaries and extras on top of the main story. But certainly the Crown Tundra looks absolutely full of it.
So we'll be moving on to the Crown Tundra in a little bit, as that was the second half of the trailer. But I guess we've talked about Avery and Clara being in this trailer, and how we see Dynamax Slowbro, and speculate on what their potential partners could be. But we actually got a new sort of mechanic, and this was called Dynamax Soup. So Dynamax Soup, in the Isle of Armor, you can make Max Soup, which essentially, if your Pokemon has got the potential to Gigantamax, if they have this soup, they'll be able to Gigantamax with it. For example, if you've got a Melmetal, if you give it the soup, it'll be able to Gigantamax. And I'm guessing this is the way that our starters are going to be able to Gigantamax, so our partner Pokemon from the beginning of the game. But I think it's a pretty cool mechanic, and it's a way of if you're building a team and you want to get everything perfect for your team, it's good that you can just use a Dynamax Soup to give it its Dynamax / Gigantamax form, rather than have to catch it in the wild. And
yeah, I mean, that was definitely where my ears pricked up. Is having Dynamax Soup means that now it's not going to be difficult to find a Gigantamax Snorlax with a 0 speed IV,
God.
because it's much easier to breed. I mean, you and I must have spent days trying to find a Snorlax with perfect IVs, and we failed. In the end, I ended up using one that I think had a decent speed IV. But now with the Dynamax Soup, we can actually breed the perfect Pokemon. And I'm sure that at some point we'll talk about IVs and breeding and all that good stuff in a podcast. But yeah, nice that you can finally breed a perfect Pokemon, give it Dynamax Soup, and have exactly what you want on the competitive scene. And actually, one of the things that I think that does really nicely is level the playing field for people who are actually following the rules and breeding their Pokemon properly versus those who go to hackers or breed, or services
manipulate
to get Pokemon
things.
Yeah, exactly. So really nice that they've added a very simple mechanic, and I hope it is easy to do. Makes competitive Pokemon a level playing field for everyone again. So I'm always a big fan of that.
Getting Gigantamax shiny Pokemon is quite the impossible task unless you do go to someone who manipulates dens and whatnot. So to be able to sort of be able to get shiny Gigantamax Pokemon now in a much easier sort of way is such a motivating thing for me to be able to collect them all. So I'm very much looking forward to doing that. Really.
I mean, we say a much easier way. How long have you been looking for a shiny Scorbunny?
It's not even the Scorbunny. It's the bloody Feebas that I gave up after 1,000 eggs. I'll go back to it one day, but not anytime soon. But yeah, that's it with Dynamax Soup. Unless you've got anything else to talk about it.
No. I'm hoping it's not too difficult to recreate. I'm hoping that it's a fairly easy process.
It's just nice that everybody's sitting on a table. I mean, most people just sit in front of their settees and eat their food, but here, we're a family. We eat at the table. Anyway, I'm moving on before it gets too heated. Another sort of feature is the Cramomatic. Now, this is an item where it lets you combine up to 4 different items to make a new item. So you get different items based on the items you put into it. Now, I have no idea what we'll be creating with it, what we have to put in. Do we put 4 potions to make a max potion? I have no idea, but this is such a cool little thing they've added, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it sort of works out. It reminds me of the Puffing making machine back in the day.
It was very subtly teased, which I really like. I mean, they've really said nothing about it. The only thing that I can speculate is that maybe you're putting in berries or apricorns to form Pokeballs, because we know that that's coming back in this DLC.
Okay, so I was going to bring this up later, but in this trailer and post-trailer on the website, we had no sort of mention of the apricorns. Do you speculate? So you're speculating that this is the way we're going to get those apricon Pokemon. It's not going to be Kurt. It's not going to be his granddaughter. This is the way we're going to get our apricorns.
So the 2 things that really stood out to me in the trailer that they didn't highlight but made a real point to visualize is there's these really large trees that almost seem to be at the centerpiece of some of the shots. And it was in 2 or 3 different locations as well. So my assumption is that those trees are what you use to find apricorns. Whether you need to use Headbutt to get them, I don't know. But I imagine that's how you get them, and then you put them into the Cramomatic, and that's how you get your Beast Balls and Love Balls and all the different balls that you can't currently buy within the game.
Yeah.
I think that might be the mechanic for how they do it. It would be lovely to have Kurt back. It would be really nice to have him in the game again. It's been such a long time.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's Kurt's house that the Cramomatic's in. But I'm wondering if maybe this is the way in which they modernise the process, and that's how you do it.
That's such a great point. Such a great point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where we know it's coming, and we've had no teasers about how it happened. So I'm just trying to put 2 and 2 together. Realistically, can I see it being for new competitive items? probably not, because I think that it's more likely that where you're finding things that you have to kind of, I don't want to say farm for, because I'm sure they'll make it relatively easy, but if you have to collect, 4 choice scarves in order to make a super choice scarf or something like
Oh,
that,
please don't.
yeah, I think it would just make I think it would make it a little bit too infuriating, and then it would sort of make a lot of other maybe competitive items a bit more redundant. So
Yeah.
either I think it's going to be a cheaper way to get items rather than BP, but actually I think this is probably for the Avery balls that we're so excited for.
Cool. I mean, I think in terms of the Isle of Armor, those are the only two things I really thought in the trailer that was really sort of shown to us. So there isn't really anything else to talk about in relation to the Isle of Armor apart from, I don't know, Kubfu and how he evolves. So on the website it says that the Kubfu evolution is not actually based on your version of the game, but rather is based on the decisions you make. And as I alluded to earlier, there's 2 different pagodas. I don't know what's the difference between the 2, but I speculate that if you go to one pagoda and not the other, your Kubfu will evolve into one style of Urshifu. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any other thoughts on the Isle of Armor before we move on to the Crown Tundra stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the sensible way. If you go up one tower versus the other, that's probably the different ways in which he evolves, and that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen a huge number of posts across social media for people who are celebrating the fact that it's almost like a new form of evolution. But the fact that you can train it in different ways, it evolves into one of 2 different Pokemon, and then every reply to that just being pictures of Tyrogue, because I think people forget that Tyrogue back in Generation 2 had the most incredible way of evolving,
Yeah,
where
most
depending
incredibly
on whether it's
annoying way of evolving. Let me just
it
add
was
there.
annoying, but depending on whether its attack stat or its defense stat was higher, it evolved into Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan, or if they were equal, it evolved into Hitmontop.
Mm-hmm.
So it required you to be very, very careful about how you train Tyrogue and the EVs that you collected from battling it in order to force it to level up a certain way, which I thought was, yes, it's frustrating, but a very, very clever mechanic. So in this way, for Kubfu, it's similar in some ways in that the way in which you train it makes the difference. Um, but again, it's the Pokemon Company doing something a little bit different, and I'm always in favor of that.
There's one more question I wanted to ask, and that's we don't see any levels of the Pokemon in this Isle of Armor expansion, and I just want to know what is going to be the level cap in this expansion. Is it going to be about level 60-ish? Are they going to have level 100 Pokemon there, or what's going to happen with it? Because by this time a lot of my Pokemon are over leveled, and to the point I'm actually just thinking of breeding a brand new team just for the Isle of Armor to kind of have it at the right sort of level, because I want to have a little challenge rather than bulldoze through the content.
Yeah, so when they first announced the Isle of Armor DLC, I mean, the first thing that thought to me is maybe this is the time we finally raise the level cap. But 2 things that they've announced made me reconsider that. The first is that they're adding new challenges, new ways to battle that are really supposed to test your Pokemon.
Yeah.
A bit like the Battle Frontier back in Generation 3, I'm assuming that that's going to be very specific mechanics around how you battle. So, for example, needing to use a certain type of Pokemon, or needing to use Pokemon that don't have items, or you have certain kind of moves, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, I think that's going to be a really clever way to um, force people to actually work hard to complete the DLC without needing to raise the level cap.
Okay, that
And
makes
actually,
sense.
the addition of Kubfu, if he's a mandatory part of your party while you go through the DLC, again, is another way in which they can level the playing field out. Because I'm sure that Kubfu won't come to you at level 100.
So I guess what we're saying is for the story sort of content in the Isle of Armor, it'll be sort of capped for you automatically, and maybe in the wild area it's not going to be capped, and so that stuff, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So you can just do that separately. Yeah, is that the sort of
Yeah,
thinking?
I mean, I imagine that most of the wilder areas in the Isle of Armor will have wild Pokemon at maybe level 60 to level 80. I don't think they'll hit level 100 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they'll be slightly stronger than maybe level 60. But I do think that the DLC, I'm sure they'll have thought this through, because I think the only 2 options they have are raise the level cap or find new ways to make the game difficult. And given that they've thrown some teasers out about that already, I'm
あ
expecting
な
them
た、
to have found
リ
other
トル
ways
デモン
to
になれるんじゃない
make the game a little bit more challenging, which is really nice.
Sorry, could you just repeat yourself there? I completely forgot. I still had like following stuff on at the moment.
That's okay, no worries. That's okay. No, I was just saying that I imagine that they'll have found different ways to make the game more challenging. And I'm sure that, Kubfu and other additions will be the way in which they do that. So no, I don't think they'll raise the level cap. I think we'll probably keep it at level 100. The nice thing about competitive is that that is capped at level 50. So if they did raise the level cap, I mean, there's nothing to lose from doing it, other than it's just going to mean a lot of people who will probably want to farm or use the Pokejobs to just level their team up quickly, which feels like a bit of a waste of time. So I'm sure that they'll have a different way of managing the difficulty in the DLC.
Yeah, sorry about that. Anyone that's listening on the podcast or on the YouTube, I'll have to start the sort of alert noise to just balance it with the podcast. But just want to give a big shout out to Chuggin Man Cream for the follow. But anyway, second part of the trailer, we have.
I did want to, just before we move on,
Sorry,
I did want to say one more thing about the Isle of Armor.
Yeah.
Which is that they're introducing move tutors and new moves in the DLC.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that.
Oh, you've got it. Okay.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Go ahead.
So we'll talk about the Crown Tundra and the sort of things we see in it. So we see this big tree that resembles the new legendary Pokemon Calyrex. We see the Galarian Kanto Pokemon, which was quite surprising. Legendary birds. And we also see Peony. I think his name's Peony. There, he's just a quick shot, but he's going to be sort of involved in what is going to be legendary hunting. Now, legendary hunting in the Crown Tundra, you'll have this feature called the Dynamax Adventure, where 4 players together investigate Dynamax raid dens, and we speculate that these Dynamax raid dens will be where you encounter legendary Pokemon. We see Mewtwo, we've seen sort of Giratina, but what are your thoughts on this sort of method of capturing legendary Pokemon?
I think it's a great way to encourage people to get online, and obviously one of the things that the Pokemon Company strategically will probably need to be doing is promoting online play and promoting Nintendo Switch Online. So actually, it's probably mainly driven by that, and I'm sure that the raids are going to be challenging enough, like some of the raid battles that we've seen before, that you will absolutely need to go through them with multiple trainers together. So it's probably a great way to encourage people to get online and participate in raids and play together, play with friends. I hope that they do have a way to make matchmaking work so that we can play with friends rather than just random people, because for me that's going to be a big factor in whether I do a lot of these raids online or whether I don't.
Because we've had a challenge in Mewtwo. We had this Mewtwo Dynamax battle where it was quite challenging, and really doing that in a pickup group was very, very difficult because these Mewtwo's are very, very strong. So I'm hoping the challenge of these legendary Pokemon we find in these dens are going to be really difficult, and so it will promote you trying to find, your ideal squad and, squadding up with people and, devising tactics to tackle these legendary Pokemon.
And the thought hadn't really occurred to me at the time, but I wonder if that Mewtwo event, which was obviously centered around the release of the rebooted Pokemon, the first movie, so Mewtwo Returns Evolution, I wonder if that was them just testing the difficulty settings for a legendary max raid battle. And what was really nice about that is that you absolutely spot on. You couldn't do it with the AI, and actually you struggled a bit with just random people that you were joining an online lobby with. You really did have to kind of plan ahead to take it down with any kind of certainty. Otherwise you were hoping on getting lucky. And I saw lots of people who realized that a certain Pokemon was really good defensively, so running something like Wide Guard or moves that helped prevent the team being taken out. But it doesn't work if then you're paired up with other people who are doing the same thing. So being able to coordinate and play with friends is absolutely kind of critical to, or was critical to, that max raid battle. I'm hoping that we get the same with these. I think it'll be a real incentive to go and play max raid battles especially, but also obviously play them online.
Apart from the Galarian legendaries, which we're going to break down a bit later on, I actually wanted to talk about the other very cool feature, and one I know that you're very excited about, and that's the idea of the Galarian Star Tournament in Winden, where you'll play multi-battles, double battles against various characters from the story. And the sort of pair that we see in the trailer is actually Raihan and Leon. Now, which is really interesting because, as we know, Raihan is fierce rivals with Leon, and he's the only person in Galar that's even come close to being Leon, obviously apart from us. But that's really interesting to see them buddying up. And the first thought I had in my head was, Raihan likes his weather tactics, and he's got a Torkoal in his team. So how terrifying is it having a Torkoal with a Gigantamax Charizard facing down on your team? Is going to be very, very terrifying prospect.
I I hope that's a Gigantamax Solar Power Charizard as well. Let's not mess around here.
Destroy us, destroy our dreams.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? It's fantastic because I'm a huge fan of double battles. I think that it will encourage more people to practice double battles, and obviously, double battles are not a big feature in the story campaign of this game. I'm trying to remember if there are any double battles actually in. I guess you do a couple with Hop
Mhm.
against
You do have
Team Star.
Rayhan's gym, the eighth gym
Yes,
where you
that's
have.
actually, and that was a really nice surprise because I
Yeah,
wasn't expecting it.
no, I wasn't
But
prepared
actually,
for it.
there aren't a lot of double battles in the game. So nice that they found a new way to introduce it. I hope you get the option of picking double battles versus the original tournament.
I think there'll be
And
two different
also,
tournaments to
I
enter in.
wonder if yeah, and I wonder if because obviously we see the protagonist alongside Hop in the trailer.
Mhm.
I wonder if the person you battle with, a bit like the Battle Frontier back in Generation 3, is either a character from the main story
Mhm.
or trainers that you can help kind of um, bring along yourself. So one of the nice things in Generation 3 is that there was a trainer on the side of the Battle Frontier who, if you talk to a couple of times, they asked you questions about advice for their team.
Mhm.
And depending on what advice you gave them, when they joined the Battle Frontier as a possible tag partner, they had the team that you'd advise them on,
That'd
which
be
is
really
really
cool.
cool because you could say, if you had a water type and a grass type and you needed a fire type for the team, you could tell them to bring a Blaziken or a Torkoal and they do it. And it was a really nice way for the game to very subtly um, really nice way for the game to very subtly kind of prompt you.
Sorry,
Um,
I'm just imagining you now. Listen up here, buddy. You bring that Charizard or whatever. It's like, oh dear.
yeah, I mean, it was really the kind of thing where you could say this is what I want, and he bought it. It was great. So I wonder if there's the option to do that as well. And obviously, the one that I would be most excited for is if you could do it over Wi-Fi and have a friend that you could invite into the tournament, and the two of you play it together.
Mhm.
Because I think that would probably be the most fun if you could. And I hope there are some decent prizes for it as well, because I'm sure that they'll make it challenging.
Now,
So
I, I,
that's
I
another
do
thing I'm
wonder
excited
whether or
for.
not we could get some guest characters from other games that'll join us.
Oh yeah,
That'd
I
be
mean
nice.
we saw that in Black and White too with the
Pokemon World
I want to
Tournament.
say it was called the Dream. It was the World Tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's something we can see again. That will be lots of fun.
And I guess the other thing I wanted to mention about this 2v2 tournament was that your character now, the look of your character, it looks like you've got a lot of sponsorships on your outfit. So I guess they've recognized you as the champion now, and you've got a lot of companies sponsoring you. So that's pretty cool. I was talking to Philip earlier, Phil556, and he was just sort of hoping that you can change your outfit to have more cooler gym outfits than you had in the beginning of the game. So
Yeah,
yeah.
one of the massive surprises of the game, I think we touched on this at one point, is that you unlock lots of different gym outfits as you're playing through the game,
Mhm.
but you can't actually wear that outfit during the gym challenge, which was so bizarre to me. It seemed like such an easy thing to do.
Mhm.
But actually, and I suppose it's probably because they had cutscenes and things where you were wearing a certain outfit. But it seems so easy to me that you could switch your gym outfit, and it was a feature they never put in. So I hope they do retrospectively add it in the DLC.
Mm. And just one more thing before we move on, more related to the Isle of Armor, but in the trailer we do see a woman with a Squirtle and a Bulbasaur either side. So I'm sort of speculating whether or not you get to pick one of these, and this Pokemon that has the potential to Gigantamax. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's it
that would be
really.
fun. It'd be nice to have an easy way to pick up a Gigantamax, Blastoise, or Venusaur.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for that.
What's your favorite out of the two?
Do you know what? It was hard. I actually really like the look of Blastoise. I didn't at first. It took me a minute,
I
but I
remember.
really like the
I
look of
remember.
Blastoise.
Yeah.
And I think I've said this before. Like for me, I think the Gigantamax designs I've struggled with,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I don't find them um, as appealing as I did the Mega Evolutions, where I could see something that was almost like
They're more
in Mega Evolution,
creature-like.
where yeah, it was more creature-like, and it really felt like sort of evolution at its highest level.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Gigantamax, things are become, a little bit. They're so extreme that they're unreasonable. A couple of them I really like. Like I love Snorlax. I think the idea of him being so lazy that stuff is sprouted on him is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, but some of them I look at like Gigantamax Duraludon, and it's just a little strange. And
Mm-hmm.
I get that it's inspired by Skyscraper, and I get the idea, but it just didn't sit quite right for me with like these being organic creatures, I guess. Um,
I do
alongside
apologize because
I think.
I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, and I promise I'll move on in a second. But you know what's really helped me get over it is thinking that the Pokemon world is influenced by Pokemon, and that the infrastructure is based on these Pokemon's forms. So, like, what if like skyscrapers were based off a Gigantamax? What do you call it? Gigantamax Duraludon? What if ice creams were inspired by a Vanillite and stuff like that? And so that's sort of what's helped me get around how strange some Pokemon look. Like
That's actually really clever. And thinking about it that way, you're right, does kind of ease it in my mind. That's a
yeah,
really
it
clever
doesn't
idea.
give an excuse for weird designs, but it helps me get over it a bit more. So yeah,
Yeah, do you know what? I think if the Pokemon Company played into that and actively made it a part of the lore,
mhm.
I'd be totally behind it. I think the bit that I struggle with is until they do that, it feels like lazy design.
Yeah, Klefki. Shout
But
out to Klefki.
oh, let's not go down that rabbit hole. We could talk about that for hours.
Okay, we'll move on to the breakdowns of each Pokemon then. And the first one I really want to talk about is Galarian Slowbro. Now, this is the one I'm really excited about. Not least because it's the first Psychic Poison type in the game. Can you believe it?
Do you know what? It didn't even occur to me when they said that it was the first Psychic Poison Pokemon.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, there are obviously combinations of Pokemon that we've not had before.
Mhm.
Always nice to see a new one.
Mm. And what I like about its design is it's got an arm, which is basically a cannon. And so with Final Fantasy VII being out, I'm going to call mine Barret because it just looks like Barret to me.
Very nice.
And so here's a bit of trivia for you: it's the first Pokemon to have a regional form and a Mega Evolution. Can you believe it?
No, that hadn't occurred to me.
Yes,
that's cool.
I wonder if like whenever they reintroduce Mega Evolution, they better. Whether or not we'll see a Mega Evolution for the Galarian version of this.
I wonder. I mean, the bit I really like about Galarian Slowbro's design,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's subtle. It's just his expression.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so perfect where he's still looking dumbfounded at his arm,
Mm-hmm.
going, "This doesn't quite make sense."
Mm-hmm.
But he's going along with it, and I actually think it's a really nicely designed Pokemon. So credit there because it's a really nice regional form.
Now, here's this. He's got a new ability called Quick Draw, and I'm not too sure what this means, but here's a little tidbit from the Pokemon website. They say, although this Pokemon is normally zoned out, facing off against strong opponents activates stimulants in his body, sending them coursing through its nervous system and delivering a jolt. When this happens, Slowbro's expression sharpens with a speed that puts even the quickest reflexes to shame. Slowbro readies its shelter and makes a poisonous liquid shoot from its shelter's tip. What do we think that is?
Yeah, so my mind went racing, and there's a couple of things that spring to mind.
Mm-hmm.
The first is a bit like Cramorant, where when it gets damaged, it does a recoil attack.
Yeah.
So if it takes damage, maybe the arm fires off.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is maybe it's a bit like a Quick Claw. So it sometimes just randomly will move first in its priority bracket.
Yeah.
So that the shell functions a bit like a Quick Claw.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is that actually it has maybe a specific move that when it's used, is always. Actually, I'm not quite sure how that would work. I was going to say a move that would always move first in its priority bracket, but I feel like that would be a feature of the move.
I think the
so yeah, maybe one of those first two ideas.
The one thing I was thinking about is that it talks about it, getting a bit more serious when it fights stronger opponents, and I'm maybe thinking if the Pokemon's like a level higher from you or so, that you basically start off the first turn by doing a bit of damage to the Pokemon, without using up a turn. So you Slowbro comes out, strong Pokemon comes out, and just its ability activates where it does 25% or so to the opposing Pokemon, or something like that. Is what I was thinking. So that could be a little thing.
I wonder if maybe it always moves first against high level opponents. Maybe that's another option.
Oh,
so
that's
not
good.
so useful for competitive.
Yeah.
But certainly for the DLC, it could be a useful one. Again, if it's a Pokemon that they maybe give to you, and obviously they've gifted us a Galarian Slowpoke. If you haven't got that, go and check out Wedgehair Station. Wedgehair Station?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, Wedgehair Station for one of those. But maybe because you've got a Galarian Slowpoke, maybe that's one of the things that they do is they encourage you to use it in the DLC.
Yeah,
through that ability. All cool ideas.
So the new move is called Shell Sidearm, and as per the website, Shell Sidearm is a poison special move in which this Pokemon fires poisonous liquid from the tip of the shell attached to its arm. This move may poison the target. Moreover, it inflicts either physical or special damage depending on what will damage the opponent more. Bloody hell. Is what I have to say to that.
The bit that really interests me there is normally when we see moves that can do special or physical damage, it's based on which Pokemon's stat is higher.
Hmm.
Whereas this seems to indicate that it's going to take into account the factors on the opponent's side of the field, so either their stats or things like light screen, etc.,
Hmm.
and always do more damage. So it's
Hmm.
almost like a move that's difficult to prevent because it sounds like whatever you try and do, it's going to find the best way to damage you.
And I think we want to talk shortly about the competitive side of things, but I think we talked about this Pokemon, being able or having the potential to take out one of the two biggest threats in the game, which is Clefairy and Toxapex at the moment with its typing. So yeah, what do you think of it competitively, it being a psychic poison type in the metagame in general?
Yes, I mean when I think competitive, my hat's always on for VGC doubles.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I guess we've covered
it's hard.
singles with Clefairy and Toxapex. I mean, those are the two
Yeah,
prevalent Pokemon, and this thing will destroy them if it's given the right stats.
it's hard for me to speculate on doubles because one of the things that's so important is obviously how it pairs alongside other Pokemon. But with the prevalence of fairy types, things like Togekiss, Hatterene, it would do very well as a poison type.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wonder with Dragapult being on a lot of teams, Tyranitar being very popular,
Mm-hmm.
how it will fare being part psychic type, because it's certainly got a lot of threats out there as well.
Well, maybe we were talking about Hatterene there. Maybe with a lot of people like to run Trick Room teams. Maybe this Pokemon will be slow enough to destroy Hatterene turn one. Maybe question mark.
Yeah, and the bit that will make that really useful is if the poison chance is 30% or something rather than 10%,
Mm-hmm.
because that will absolutely give it a good chance of breaking through Focus Sash and things like that as well. So a versatile Pokemon and something that I'm sure we'll see, if not good use, then certainly lots of trial in competitive play
Well,
and experimentation.
we know the original Slowbro has always been competitively pretty good with his high defenses, and I guess it was promoted further by its Mega Evolution. But I think this Galarian Slowbro might even be better than its counterpart, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But
assuming it learns Shell Smash, there's certainly good opportunity. There's certainly good opportunity for it to do good things.
yeah, well, we've got a lot to look forward to, and I'm definitely going to have one of these in my team for the Isle of Armor. But we'll go on to a couple of things shown off in the Crown Tundra. And the first of which was Regidrago. Well, we've gotten a name for it now, and it's confirmed to be a dragon type. And the Pokemon website's got a little bit of lore for us, which I thought was really cool. And it says, the sealed Regidrago. Ooh. Folklore tells that legendary Pokemon Regigigas tried to create a Pokemon from crystallized dragon energy, but ran out of crystals and was only able, next time you do the reading, only able to complete the head. People feared if Regidrago were to be completed, it would rain destruction on the land, and so they sealed it away within a temple. Now that is a really, really cool lore point, and it's nice to see Regigigas is in there, because I was wondering how could we have more Regis when we've got Regigigas related to the first three Regis we had back in Hoenn.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they've added two more, and they were never Pokemon that I thought the lore was quite well self-contained. So to add more is absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And it
Um,
explains why we haven't seen it before now, because they've been sealed away in this temple.
yeah, so I'm sure that's going to be one of the main points of the Crown Tundra is getting to explore all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But really nice to have a new, I guess, legendary Pokemon, and I hope that Regidrago gets some competitive play as well, if it's legalized in competitive, because
The Regis have never been
Regis.
that sort of damaging, I'd like to say, to the competitive game.
Well, so the thing that's really interesting is I wonder if having had all three Regis specializing in respectively defense, special defense, and mixed defense and special defense,
Mm-hmm.
whether the two new ones that we have will specialize in attack and special attack. And when you think about their typings, it certainly makes a good case that Regidrago may be a very strong attacker, and Regielectric, who we'll come on to in a moment, could be a special attacker as an electric type. So maybe that they'll be super offensive rather than defensive.
Well, I think you raised an excellent point there, and it's not one that I actually considered until you mentioned it. But we'll talk about its ability then. So its new ability is called Dragon's Maw. And whilst we still don't have a definition of what its ability is, part of the lore says this. Regidrago's body is composed of crystallized dragon energy. The energy is densest in its central core. Thanks to its body composition, Regidrago can use dragon-type moves with greater power than other Pokemon. So I'm wondering if that ability is just basically boosting your dragon-type attacks by 1.3% or something like that. Or times 1.3.
Yeah, I think that makes good sense. It would. I think if it's going to synergize with dragon type moves, then boosting the damage output certainly makes the most sense.
And I guess the other thing to know about it is that it's got a signature move in Dragon Energy. This Pokemon assumes a shape similar to a dragon's head, and then fires intense dragon energy from its mouth. The more HP the user has remaining, the higher the move's power. So that's a cool little
yeah,
cool little
similar
move.
to Eruption.
And the other one I wanted to talk about was Regieleki. We've got a name for it as well. And the lore says strength restrained by special equipment. Researchers have determined that Regieleki's body is fitted with what appears to be special insulating equipment that does not conduct conduct electricity. Some theorize that in ancient times, people tormented by Regieleki fitted the equipment on the Pokemon to restrain its power. So
why do we let you do the reading?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
So just off the bat, I have to say, when I saw the design of this Pokemon 2D, I was like, oh, it looks cool. And then when I saw it in game, I just thought, this is absolutely phenomenal design-wise. It looks like a guard. It feels like a guard. I would love the design.
That's good.
I'm a huge fan. I just wanted to say that off the bat because it's rare that I feel that strongly about a design of a Pokemon. Just seeing it offhand, I really love. Have we decided how it's pronounced?
I'm going to call it Regieleki. So
I'm going to go Regieleki.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm trying it.
Okay, I'll go with it. Regieleki. In South African, if you call it Regieleka, it means good. So shout out to my South African peoples. So it's got a new ability called Transistor, but I guess the lore gives us a bit of an answer, perhaps. A body with a bottomless supply of electricity. This Pokemon absorbs electrons to life. Electrical energy makes up most of its body. Its electric type moves are said to pack the greatest power of any electric type Pokemon. So again, maybe 1.3 times electrical power when it uses electric moves? Question mark?
Yeah, that would make the most sense.
Yeah. And I guess its actually signature move is actually more interesting than Regidrago's in the fact that it's a special move called Thunder Cage, and it fires off a bolt of electricity from its lower half, trapping the opponents below it in a cage of lightning. Thunder Cage doesn't only deal damage to the opponent when it lands, it causes them to be trapped in an electrified cage, causing damage every turn for 4 or 5 turns, preventing them from fleeing or being swapped out. So essentially sounded like a Thunder Fire Spin, really.
But yeah, I mean, expect to see it alongside Parasong users Lapras and I forgot the name of Primarina. Because it's a perfect counterpart to Parasong, which causes a Pokemon to faint in 3 turns. But yeah, a really cool move. Really, as I said, really cool design. And looking forward to seeing it in the game.
And I guess we've already talked about it being competitively. Maybe these can make a difference to the game with it having supposedly powerful dragon and electric moves.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they're legal in the competitive format.
Now, I did want to touch on one thing before we move to the Galarian birds. It's something that you pointed out to me, which I didn't even realise. The temples with the Regis. What's going on there?
Yeah, it was a really subtly done a bit of a trailer where we saw a Relincath inside the temple, but most importantly in the wild. Those of you who caught it, there was a Wailord, and for those of you who played Generation 3, and I believe Generation 4, I can't remember how it worked in Gen 4, but in Generation 3, the way to unlock the temples for the Regis was to have a Wailord and Relincath in your party, go down to a cavern in the middle of the ocean, and it unlocked a very special puzzle that you had to solve, and it then unlocked all the temples. So it's definitely a shout out from the Pokemon Company to that puzzle. It looks like we're going to have something akin to that in this new game.
It's fine. So where were we? We were talking about the Galarian Pokemans, and
I'm just going to wait for the stream to go back live.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the Galarian.
So we were talking about Galarian Zapdos, Galarian Moltres, and Galarian Articuno. And I guess really where we need to start with this is, holy moly, they've actually confirmed that these are Galarian variants of legendary Pokemon, something I don't think I would ever see.
No, we've not seen it before, and it's really exciting. I think the thing I'm most excited for is probably the story behind these guys, because obviously every legendary's got a very dense amount of lore. So I'm really excited to see what the lore is behind the Galarian forms and why they're different to the Cantonian forms. I'm so excited about these.
And yeah, what's really interesting in the trailer is that we see them fighting with each other. So the original Kanto legendary birds, they're harmonious things alongside Lugia, but these ones are like just fighting with each other. There's just disharmony. So I wonder what the deal is with all of them, really.
Yeah, I wonder if that means we will see Lugia make an appearance in the story again, or maybe a Galarian version of Lugia. Who knows? But Lugia is so closely tied to these three birds that it would be almost too good an opportunity to miss.
How far will they go with this?
Don't stop. I'm all for it.
So we'll start with the Galarian Zapdos then, and this sort of lore is a legendary Pokemon that loves battling mighty opponents. Once every several decades, this migratory Pokemon appears in the Crown Tundra. For a long time, it was thought to be the same legendary Pokemon as the Zapdos previously discovered in other regions. This belligerent, battle-hungry Pokemon seems unable to resist challenging Pokemon, and Pokemon it senses may be stronger than itself. So quite an aggressive Pokemon then.
Yeah, I love that it's really fired up. All three of them look very much fired up for a battle.
Mm-hmm.
But Zapdos in particular looks like a fierce opponent. I love
These
it.
could easily be Monster Hunter bosses, honestly speaking. But we got the typing for it as well. It's fighting flying. It shares the same typing as your favorite Pokemon, if you wanna.
Yeah, Hawlucha. One of my favorite Pokemon is absolutely Hawlucha. I hope he gets a massive attack stat, because it would make it so powerful. Certainly with Max Knuckle and Max Airstream, it's going to be a great Pokemon to use.
Well, just on that, I guess its ability maybe indicates to the fact that its attack stat is going to be the crucial thing about it. With it having Defiant.
Access to Defiant.
Yeah. Do you want to explain to the people what that is?
Defiant's an ability that where any one of your stats gets lowered, your attack stat is raised by 2 stages. So it's a really quick way to buff up attack.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, we have seen Defiant on Pokemon who don't always rely on their attack stat. It could be a great way for Zapdos to turn a mediocre stat into an outstanding one really cheaply. So I'm all for it.
I think Incineroar is going to be a bit of trouble in competitive.
Yeah, we'll see if these Pokemon are legal in competitive. Historically they have been. But with the way the format's working at the moment, actually, I think it'd be really nice if they're kept out of it, because I think they're probably looking like they're going to be very, very powerful Pokemon.
Well, this just boosts the fact that it might be powerful. The fact that it's got a signature move called Thunderous Kick. So this is a fighting type physical move where the Pokemon overwhelms its target with lightning-like movement before delivering a kick. And this will also lower the target's defense. So it's going to be a monstrous monster, I think.
Yeah, and definitely points to it being a physical attacker versus a special attacker.
And I think we've talked about it briefly being competitive and probably going to be good for the competitive game. But let's compare it to its counterpart, Zapdos. Now, actually, Zapdos for me is the best of the three birds competitively, being very good defensively, having an ability in static that cripples physical attackers, and quite a difficult Pokemon to switch into because it's got good coverage with Electric and Heat Wave, obviously, for like those resistant Steel types, and Ferrothorn, really. So it kind of complements Zapdos having a good, strong Galarian type as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But certainly don't sleep on Articuno. So do you want to just talk a bit about Articuno?
Okay, we'll go to Articuno then. Oh god. So Galarian Articuno, a cruel, arrogant, legendary Pokemon. Like Articuno has appeared in this Crown Tundra once every while during migratory season. Though cold and callous in personality, it moves in a highly refined manner. It keeps itself airborne through the constant use of psychic powers, almost never flapping its wings, which actually is really interesting. But it's a psychic flying type, and it's got an ability called Competitive, if you want to
Yeah, I mean, Articuno has always been my favorite of the three birds, so I really like its Galarian form. I think it's great. Competitive is the counterpart to Defiant. So competitive, when one of your stats is lowered, you gain 2 stages in special attack. So much like Zapdos will get a big boost to its attack, Articuno will get a massive boost to its special attack. And I'm sure with a Psychic and Flying typing, it's going to have lots of moves that can do decent damage as well. And in the same way that we're seeing great usage out of Milotic at the moment with competitive, don't expect Articuno to go down easily.
Well, it's got a move in Freezing Glare, which is a Psychic type special move, in which the Pokemon attacks by firing psychic power from both its eyes, #Cyclops, and this move may leave the target frozen, and I'm thinking that will be a 30% chance to freeze.
It's actually the first non-ice type move that can cause freezing, so
Ooh,
for some
nice
people
little
that's a real attraction. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a real attraction, and if the percentage is quite good, that'll be a useful move.
Now, in singles competitive at the moment, the meta, ghost types are rampant. They're so strong in Sword and Shield, and actually, I kind of see this becoming hard to fit in with the current meta game, to be honest with you, just because of that. So it'll be interesting to see what its stats are like and whether or not it can survive against things like, Gengar, Dragapult, very fast Pokemon, very strong Pokemon.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
the same is definitely true in doubles. We'll have to wait and see what its stat base is. I imagine it's going to be bulkier than either of the other two counterparts. Historically, Articuno always has been, so let's wait and find out.
Well, let's talk about its counterpart, Articuno. Well, let's actually not talk about it because it's not even worth talking about it in their competitive standpoint. It was just terrible. But we'll talk about the last one then, the most cool looking one from the artwork, in my opinion anyway, and that's Galarian Moltres. Again, one that's a migratory Pokemon that appears in the Crown Tundra. It has a haughty personality and it conducts itself calmly according to its own whims, which doesn't match up. But it is, what typing is it, Amit?
It's Dark Flying, I believe.
It is indeed. And it's got the ability Berserk, where it boosts the Pokemon's special attack when it takes a hit that causes HP to become half or less. So very, I wouldn't say as good as an ability as the other two, because it's quite dependent. But yeah, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, Berserk, and again, I forget the name of the Pokemon. The normal dragon type from Gen 7.
Drampa, because it looks like a grandpa.
Yeah, you do occasionally see Drampa using Berserk in competitive play. I mean, the boost that it gives to attack is not a subtle one, so expected to see some play for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a very cool design, and I'm looking forward to seeing the three of them together because I'm sure that there'll be a nice story around it.
So it's got a dark type special move in the name of Fiery Wrath. The Pokemon transforms its Wrath into a fire-like aura to attack. It may also make opposing Pokemon flinch. So that's pretty cool ability / move. Sorry, to have that chance of flinching. We historically see from Togekiss that flinching can be devastating in battles. So
yeah, and nice that all three Pokemon's signature moves have got an homage to
their original
their
typing.
Cantonian forms. Yeah, nice.
Good and competitive. Well, I actually like Moltres in competitive. It's not as good as Zapdos, certainly, but it's way better than Articuno. It having Flame Body's got a kind of niche for it to cripple physical attackers, but I don't think there's any way you'd use a Moltres over a Volcarona. So let's see how the Galarian form sort of.
Let's wait and see.
Yeah. So that's it for the three. Is there anything you want to talk about these three, or?
No, let's move on.
We'll move on. We'll talk about the starters then. So we actually got the hidden abilities for each starter, and I guess the first one is Libero, if you want to tell the people what Libero is.
Yeah, so available now, you can get hidden ability starters through Pokemon Home.
Mm-hmm.
Libero is a ability very similar to, almost identical to Protein, Greninja's hidden ability, where Cinderace changes form into the type of move that it's using before it executes the move. So very, very useful, not only because you get the same type attack bonus guaranteed, but you also can use it quite defensively to avoid certain types of moves. So make Cinderace a flying type to avoid ground type moves, dark type to avoid psychic types, etc., etc.
And I think both in the sort of Smogon competitive game, and I guess in sort of singles and probably doubles, this is going to be a Pokemon that's really going to, be top tier because of that ability. And I guess it's got max Airstream as well. It's already got a good speed tier. It's got a good attack stat. So it's going to be quite the force to be reckoned with, I'd say.
Yeah, I hope so.
We've got the next one, Grassy Surge Grookey. Grassy Surge, basically gives you grassy terrain on the battlefield, which powers up, grass type moves, sort of weakens Earthquake and a few other ground type moves, and actually gives you residual recovery. And I think me and you had tested out Grassy Surge Rillaboom, and actually it was quite surprisingly good.
Yeah, we had fun with it midweek. We did a little stream on Pokemon Showdown just to test it out and show what it can do. And we had a lot of fun with it.
I guess, it having Grassy Surge, thank you, Al, for the subscription. It having Grassy Surge, really does help it when you're using maybe a substitute set, so you can get recovery back from substitutes. It makes your Wood Hammer almost intolerable for Pokemon to switch into. So, yeah, it's definitely going to make the Pokemon a lot better than it is currently, having this new move. And the last one, if you want to talk about the last one.
Yeah, Sniper Inteleon, or Sniper Sobble. Sniper boosts the damage from a critical hit from 1.5 times the base damage to 2.25 times the base damage, and it makes Inteleon a Dynamax killer. So Snipe Shot, which already has a boosted critical hit ratio, coupled with Scope Lens, gives you a ridiculously high chance of a critical hit. And now with that boosted critical hit damage, Snipe Shot is the kind of move that could really one-hit KO a lot of Dynamax Pokemon. So a real asset to Inteleon there.
I think of the three, I dislike Inteleon the most, just because it's so reliant on the crit factor. It's so reliant on it, and if you're not using Scope Lens, then you lower your chance even more to crit. So I think compared to the other two, this is the least impressive one out of the three. Yeah,
I mean, don't forget the progress that Togekiss has made with Super Luck on the competitive scene. I mean, it's been very, very prevalent in doubles because of the sheer damage output of Scope Lens plus Super Luck. But yeah, I mean, it certainly of the three feels like the weakest of the abilities, but does feel very fitting for its personality. So,
and I guess this Gigantamax form as well, having a literal water gun. So
yeah, exactly.
But hey, should we move on to our next segment?
Let's do it.
So it's time for the Podcastform news with Sword and Shield. So Amit, do you want to talk about the mystery gifts coming up? In Sword and Shield.
I'll do a really. I noticed that we've gone very long on time, so I'll do a quick roundup of the news. Right now, you can get yourself a hidden ability Corsola in Sword and Shield. Go on to Mystery Gift in game, get via internet, and you can get yourself a hidden ability Corsola with the hidden ability Cursed Body. Very, very useful in competitive. It disables the opponent's move when it makes a hit with a 30% chance. You can also get an evolution item set, so lots of items like Whip Dream, Sachet that you need in order to evolve certain Pokemon in the game. It actually gives you it gives you a full set of every evolution item you need. So be sure to pick that up if you haven't finished your Pokedex yet and are looking for a couple of those, because it is annoying to have to wait for Stow One Side to sell them. So pick those up in game at the moment.
Now, considering we've gone long, do you want to talk about the Players' Cup this week? Is there something imperative that's happening, or should we leave it till next week?
No, we'll leave the Players' Cup till next week. Cool. But congratulations to everyone who did make the tournament. We'll talk about it more next week. But lots of fun competing in the qualifiers, and I hope you all had a good time as well.
And we shall zoom on to the next segment. Pokemon Twilight Wings episode 5. Wow, this show is just continues to be great, gives us more context behind the characters. Go watch it, and I guess when the sort of Twilight Wings episodes ends, we'll talk about it in sort of further details, and we'll explore the episodes. But I really enjoyed this. Did you end up watching it?
I haven't seen it yet, so
okay.
I will give you my feedback as soon as I can, but looking forward to watching it. Twilight Wings is such a phenomenal mini-series, and I'm really enjoying the depth it adds to the Galar lore.
We'll go on to the next segment. What's the Pokemon Rumble Rush? What is going on with this game? It's going out of service next month, but there's a new update.
What's the Pokemon Rumble Rush?
That's the segment name.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done, you.
Don't praise me too much. I'm trying to make sure that you've got time to exit.
Go on.
No. So there's a new update. And quite a significant one where you can now switch between multiple seas. So seas are kind of like areas where there were events. There's snag stages where you can catch Pokemon that you haven't caught in your Pokemon deck, Pokedex yet. Special missions and titles for catching Pokemon in every sea. There's a Battle Royale specific effects to summon gears, which I don't know what that means, but it doesn't matter because the game's going debunked next month, so we're probably better off not knowing. And now you can search for your Pokemon via the attack stat, but interestingly it removes connectivity from your Nintendo account, so they're really saying goodbye to this game.
Yeah, it's so sad that it's so sad that it's going out, but it sounds like this is their big goodbye and hurrah. So
and I guess
I hope those of you who played it continue to enjoy it.
Yeah.
For the little time that it's still available.
For completionists, it's giving them a chance to complete their Pokedex before the game goes debunked, so they can feel good about themselves.
Exactly.
And I hope you do go catch them all. But without further ado, it's time for the next segment. What's Pokemon going on?
What is going on? What's the news?
There's a current Throwback Challenge 2020 champion event where actually it's focused on Unova Pokemon, but it has Galarian Stunfisk spawning as well, which is really cool. In eggs, you can get Galarian Meowth, Darumaka, Zigzagoon, Berserker, and Obstagoon, and other Pokemon are going to be available. And this will actually carry on past the event where the Galarian forms will be available in 7km eggs alongside the Alolan counterparts. So that's pretty cool. But actually, more interestingly, Latios and Latias are going to be in raids from June 12th to June 15th. So look forward to that. But actually, Niantic out of nowhere has just announced 2 new Pokemon Go features that are coming to the game. First is you can invite your friends to raid battles regardless of your friend's location, which is going to be so good. Because if you need help with a raid, you can now get your friend who maybe running a bit late and can't catch up to you to come to the raid and help you with it. It will still use a raid pass. Not sure if it's remote raid pass or a normal raid pass for your friend, but it's a really cool feature, and big shout outs to Niantic making it more accessible. Making raids more accessible to you by having friends available to help you from anywhere. So really good feature there. But the other one is they're introducing stickers into the games where you can add stickers to gifts that you send to friends. I have no idea what the point of this is. There's going to be 5 available from launch, and I'm guessing it's going to be another thing that you'll have to buy to get more. So enjoy stickers for whatever reason. I have no idea.
I hope that they find a way to let you put stickers on real life things. And so you can put like a Bulbasaur sticker on your front door, and then when someone else looks at your front door in AR, they can see the sticker. That would be pretty cool.
Oh god, I can just imagine the amount of stalking.
If you implement that idea, I want commission.
I'm moving on, son. So you want to be a Pokemon Masters? That's the segment name. Signasuit Grimsley is coming to the Pokemon story on June 11th. Now we knew Grimsley. Well, it was hinted that Grimsley is going to be part of the main story. I think we haven't had a main story update for about 3 or 4 months, so it's good to see him. But yeah, we're going to have a new chapter and 2 interludes, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And the way to obtain Grimley will be from scouting. So if you've got gems to scout Pokemon Masters, go scout for him. I'll go more in depth about the character, how good he is going to be in the actual game next week, but his design looks really cool. So
I was going to say, actually, he does look very sharp.
Yeah, shout out to Pokemon Masters for the designs. They're crushing it. I'm telling you, this game is unbelievable.
It's a phenomenal. It's absolutely one of my favorite spin-off Pokemon games. Credit to the guys at DNA. They're doing a wonderful job with the game.
And there's a water type training event where you can actually level up Misty and Barry's sync moves. So make sure you do that. You've got a while yet, but what you don't have a while yet for is the other event, which is with Dawn. You've got 4 days left to complete that event, so go ahead and make sure you do that. But we're going to move on to my favorite segment. whether Helioptile is Pokemon Sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange because, we've been talking about this app for a long time. And I just, it's a shame that the Pokemon Company haven't put more news out about it because lots of people are looking for a Pokemon app that'll help them sleep. And, in lockdown, I know a lot of people are struggling to keep a good routine. And this is the kind of thing that would, really help. And I'm sure it would have been very popular. Sadly, no update this week on Pokemon Sleep. So the app is still waiting for a full announcement. Hopefully we'll get it later this year. But until now, that's all the news that I have for this week.
Yeah, let's not drag it out. Back to the Podcastform news. It's the news roundup. There's a Pokemon board game? ?
Yeah, they brought out a Pokemon board game. Something we didn't know we needed, but we absolutely do. Which is a board game for the Pokemon trading card game, which is called Pokemon Battle Academy. It features 3 starter decks centered around Charizard GX, Raichu GX, and Mewtwo GX. And what it does is basically introduce people to the trading card game. It's designed to help newcomers to the trading card game learn the rules. It basically is the Pokemon trading card game. I'm not going to put a spin on it. But actually, the artwork's really nice. It's a very well packaged product. And what I really like about it is they've not tried to dumb it down. It's the trading card game, and it's designed to help what I think are going to be newcomers to the game, maybe to play it with an adult who, is going to help teach them the rules or something like that. But it's really geared for people who've never really come across the trading card game before. I wonder if they just had a lot of leftover cards from the Gen 7 series and thought, here's a great way to use them.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, do you know what? It's a really nice product, really nicely designed. I hope the price point isn't too high. Pokemon cards traditionally are quite expensive, but a really cool board game. Go check it out if you haven't already. Certainly go look at the artwork for Charizard, Raichu, and Mewtwo because those are probably the best looking GX cards that I've seen in a long
very fresh
time.
designs.
Really nice artwork. So go check that out on the Pokemon website.
I'll pull it up on stream next week on the video version, so you can have a look at that next week on the video version when we're talking about the TCG.
But yeah, Pokemon board game.
You know what? Erica says I'm old and I'd buy the board game. She loves board games, and you know what? I'm very tempted to actually buy it to play with my friends because I haven't played the TCG in a long time.
It's one of those things where I'm sure that they'll have done some balancing work between the decks, so they're all pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably a really nice way to play the game with some friends, especially if they've never played Pokemon before. It's probably a really nice way to play the game.
Off the top of your head, do you know when it's available at all?
I believe it was the end of July. I think it's releasing at the end of July. I don't know whether that will be an international release, whether it will be releasing online with lockdown. Obviously, that is probably most likely to be distributed online. But keep an eye out end of July for the board game.
I think this will deserve a bit more time, so we'll leave it for next week. But just as a PSA, on the Pokemon Kids website, YouTube, sorry, there's actually something called PokeToon, which is like a Pokemon X Looney Tunes sort of animation, which was quite incredible. But I think it deserves a lot more time than we can give it at the moment, so we're going to leave that for next week. But is there anything you want to say about it?
Go watch it before next week. We'll talk about it next week. It's absolutely fantastic. It's so cleverly done.
Mm-hmm.
It's really warm and enjoyable, in the style of Looney Tunes, starring Scraggy and Mimikyu. Go check it out. Lots of fun.
And if you just Google it, you'll be able to find the link to it, even though it's in the Japanese YouTube. So just Google it, you'll be able to find it. PokeToon. But yeah, I think we'll go on to our next segment, our final segment for today. The Unknown Fact of the Week. Talk to me.
The Unknown Fact of the Week. This is always my favourite segment of the week because I go through literally hundreds of different Pokemon bits of trivia trying to think of what I'm going to talk to you about.
But
one really caught my attention this week, which is that in Generation 4, people who have looked through the source code have discovered that you actually have better odds of catching Pokemon on certain days. So the Pokemon Company have boosted, or the designers boosted the encounter rates for wild Pokemon on holidays and on special occasions, and actually reduced the odds of finding wild Pokemon on, I suppose, I don't know how to put it, bad days. So 9/11 as an example is a day where the encounter rate in Generation 4 is reduced by 10%. It's a really subtle feature Obviously, something they never publicized. Maybe it was just the developers having a
How
bit
the
of
hell
fun.
did we find this out like years later?
Yeah, people were just looking through the source code. It's one of those things that is so subtle you probably never would have noticed. But if you were trying to catch Pokemon on one of those days and you thought the encounter rate was low, you weren't making it up in your head. It's actually true and in the source code.
You just have one person just fist bumping and just like, it's been 84 years, but I've been proven correct. You know, but that's a really cool fact of the week. But I think that's it for this week. Is there any other business you want to talk about?
I don't think so, actually.
No?
It's been a PokeRAMBLE podcast.
Mhm.
It's been a very full-on one, actually.
Mhm.
I'm surprised with a 3.5-minute trailer that we've managed to somehow fill almost 45 minutes worth of content.
It's quite reminiscent of our first ever podcast where we spent about 2 hours breaking down, you know, a 20-minute sort of trailer. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so much fun talking about it. I'm so looking forward to the DLC. I don't know if I've said that enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure next week we'll either talk about a few of the things that we kind of just skimmed through today, but also one of the big things for next week, while we're starting to key that up, is we're going to be talking about the Sun and Moon anime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to say anything more about that?
I mean, it's largely dependent on whether or not there's more DLC news. I suspect we might get one more little push from the Pokemon Company before they release the DLC. So if there's no DLC news, then for sure we're going to be doing the Pokemon Sun and Moon spoiler cast. Please, 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 if you've got any sort of impressions on the Pokemon Sun and Moon anime, even if you only watched it for a few episodes, please send them through to us at PokeRAMBLEpod@gmail.com or on my Twitter at KamailH. Or you can try find Amit's number and give him a call about it. But give us your feedback about it, because it's quite an interesting series, and there's a lot to talk about it. More than meets the eye, I think, with the Sun and Moon spoiler cast. So yeah,
and if we don't get to do it next week,
yeah.
If we don't get to do it next week, we certainly will the weekend after the DLC launches, because that will be we'll keep that spoiler free so that anyone who hasn't yet played through the DLC will have time to do so.
Yeah, and I think we'll be finalizing plans next week, and we'll let you know what's going to happen with the spoiler cast for the Isle of Armor, because certainly I know I've taken about 3 days off to make sure that I get through it all, and I'll be doing a host of sort of like giveaways and stuff like that. But more information on that next week. But apart from that, where can people watch and listen to the podcast, my good friend?
You can find the PokeRAMBLE podcast on Twitch. We are live every Sunday evening. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us today.
Yeah, it's been
first time that we've had a really kind of engaging live audience. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Twitch.tv/KamailH, KUMAILH. Every Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Universal Central Time or 7:30 p.m. British Summer Time. We are live doing the podcast. If you don't catch us live, you can find us on YouTube, search PokeRAMBLE Podcast, or on Spotify, again, PokeRAMBLE Podcast. Links are in the description if you want to check them out. And by all means, leave us comments, leave us questions. If there's stuff you want to talk about for the Sun and Moon spoiler cast, let us know. But Kamal, it's been a pleasure.
As always, you take care and keep Pokemoning. We're going to have to come up with a tagline to end the stream.
It would be keep PokeRAMBLing on.
Oh. Until next time.
It's okay.
It's
okay.
Until next time, keep PokeRAMBLing on. Wink, wink.
Bye, guys.
See ya.